Hello and welcome back. We are now at part 8 of creating things for virtual worlds, and we're going to be looking at baking light. And what I mean by that is most virtual engines, most games, most stuff have ray tracing and light shadows. And just example here, SL does have that. You can see that the lighting does get affected here by this object. But for people who have lower graphics and such, or for if you're creating a world that has one point of lighting, so let's say for example you're creating a beautiful house and you want the lighting to only be coming from the window, you don't want it to be coming from all over the place, you just want a focused light straight from the window. We're going to look at how to bake the shadow and the lighting onto a texture, so that when we bring that in, it already has the shadow and the lighting on it. So I've set up a cube here to show you this. All this cube here has is the bump map, the specular map, which we did in the last episode, and a wooden texture that I found online. And it does look quite nice. But we're going to try and create something here that's going to be similar, but it's going to have shadow baked into it. So let's hop over to Blender and work out how we do that. The first thing I've done is gone into edit mode with my cube, and I've done UV, and I've done a smart on UV wrap. Now if we go across the tabs at the top, we can see UV, and we should be able to see this panel, exactly what we did in the last episode. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a texture from my computer, and I'm going to put it here as the texture. So instead of pressing new, I'm going to press open. I'm then going to open the texture that I found, which is going to be called wood texture here. You can use any texture, just anything, as long as it's not silly size, it will upload to SL. You're looking at about 512 to 1000 pixels wide. So we have a texture, I've just opened it and I've put it there. Now if I was to go and bake light and stuff, it won't work. There's a few reasons why it won't. One is that we haven't set up the lighting, and two is we haven't actually told this object that it needs to have that texture. So let's hop over and do that bit first. What we do is we go into the shading panel, which is at the top, that says shading, and you'll be greeted by a very confusing array of buttons. Sometimes these panels here are not available. If they're not available, you'll see a button here that says new, and you can click that. Let me see if I can delete these and create a new one. I can't, but you'll see that there will be a new button here when you come to create one. Broke it now. There you go. So you see how it says new? You'll press new and it will generate these two things here. What we need to do is we need to tell that cube to have this texture. So we press shift and A for add, and we type in the word image, and it will come up image texture. We then get this panel. What we want to do is open the texture that we've got, but not by pressing open, by pressing this button here to the left and finding the texture that we just uploaded, which is wood texture. We then want to link it by using the color to the base. You literally just click and drag. Now, I've got a feeling this won't appear on here because I made a new material. For you, when you do this, that will change. For me, what I've got to do now is go to here, go to edit mode, go to materials and select this new material and assign that to the object. But you won't have to do that. It will automatically do it. And you're going to see that the wood is on the cube. Right, let's look at baking some light. First thing we want to do is decide where the light's going to be. So we go back into layout, and remember I told you this icon here, this lit up cube. If you go into object mode, you can select this round ball. That is light. So I can choose which side I want the light to be on. So I'm just going to grab it with G. I'm just going to move it over here. And I'm going to make sure, if you want more than one light, you can press Control, copy, Control C, Control V, and then press G for grab, and you can create another one. So now I've got two. And it'll create light from different areas. So that's how you make multiple light. In this case, we're just going to have the one. We're just going to have it here pointing this way so that these back panels here don't get any light. So now I'm happy with where the light is. I can have a look at what it's going to look like. And you can do that with your camera here. I think it's F12. Yeah, F12 is the render button. So you can press F12 and you can see what it's going to look like. So that's going to be the shadow that it's going to produce. And then when you're happy, just press X. If I was to move the light across and press F12, you'll see the light's in a different area now. So I can see what it's going to look like. If you find that you're pressing F12 and you're getting something that looks like that, the reason is because this camera here isn't pointing at your object. So you want to make sure that the camera is pointing at your object so that when it does, you do press F12 on the keyboard at the very top, you will see your object. Okay, so I'm happy with that lighting. What I'm going to do now is jump back into edit mode, UV edit mode, which is this. And I'm going to make sure I've selected my cube. So I'm going to select all my cubes, so I've got it all lit up here. And we're going to look at doing a bake. How we do a bake is we go into render, which is up here on the side just underneath the screwdrivers, and we want to change this top bit here that says EVEE to cycles. When we do this, we're going to be gifted with a button that says bake. We then open up the bake properties and we are able to press bake. It will take a while, and as long as you've got the object selected, you should get this. If you get an error message, make sure that you select the object so that this is all lit up here. And you're going to notice that on this side now, it has created us a new texture with that lighting. We're now going to take this texture, we're going to save it. So we go into image and we go into save as, and you always want to save your images as JPEGs when you're doing things like this. Reason is because you get that risk of transparency if you do it as a PNG. So always save it as a JPEG, and we're just going to call it wood texture 2, and we're going to save that object. We're now going to jump back into Second Life and we're going to upload that texture that we just made, texture 2. So we're going to go find it, which is here. I'm going to upload that, and I'm going to put that straight on to my other box here, and I'm going to add the specular map and the normals map that I generated for the other cube. And you're going to see straight away that the shadow and the lighting has been put on it. You can already see that it has more detail, more lighting, more texture. And this is how you create a really dynamic texture that has its own lighting. If you wanted to make the texture brighter, the lighting brighter, there's very easy ways of doing that. You can go to layout and you can move the light closer to the object, like this, and that will make it brighter, or you can add more light. But you're going to be able to create dynamic lighting, which will give your objects a little bit more of a pop than everyone else's, so they don't look as flat. They look really dynamic and spectacular as you create your objects. So I'd like you to go away and make an object and try and do some bake lighting on that object and create a really dynamic texture. Best of luck. I look forward to seeing your work.